Hey guys, this video is going to be about everything that I can fathom about feedback on eBay, okay? Feedback is something a lot of people kind of worry about. My feedback's tanked a little bit recently. I used to be for a long time I was above 99%. It doesn't really matter a whole lot anymore. eBay used to care about feedback in the sense, it's not that they don't care now. The thing is that before, you had to keep your feedback above a certain percentage, or else your account would go below standard and you could lose your ability to sell. They took that away. So now feedback is a variable that's looked at, but it isn't one of the things like I could have a 70% feedback rate. That would affect whether people buy from me or not. But as far as eBay is concerned, I wouldn't be directly punished because of my 70% feedback rate, okay? So a feedback rate, first off, it's an average. And you can calculate it by this little algorithm right there that it shows you. I'm going to zoom in. How is feedback percentage calculated? See? So what they do is they get your positives, your positive feedbacks, and then they divide it by your positive feedbacks plus your negative feedbacks, and they get a percentage. See? Useful, right? So this means that of my orders, 98.4% of them, or of my feedback, 98.4% of my feedback is positive. Okay, so that's good. But how do we get more feedback? Because that's something at the beginning is you want to grow this number. The bigger this number gets, the more sales you get. People just have this thing in their head where they will just buy from the account because it's bigger. If it's like got a 0 next to it or a 10 or even like 100, there are customers who will not buy from you just because you don't have enough ratings, even though you're offering a better price or that kind of thing, right? So the higher you get this number, the more profitable you can sell things for, because you can sell them for a higher price and still get sales versus than if you're just starting off, right? So one thing to keep in mind is that most purchases are not going to get you feedback, okay? Most transactions, most buyers, they're not going to give you feedback. It's going to be a little bit frustrating if you expect that every single transaction is going to give you some feedback, because the reality is that it's probably not going to, okay? To illustrate this concept, let's look at our 12 months ratings, right? So in 12 months, I've gotten 1,047 feedback ratings, right? So how many purchases did I have? How many transactions did I have? Let's figure that out. So we're going to go to my eBay, and we're going to look for transactions. Okay, so I had 2,231 transactions, but I only got 1,000 feedback, right? Not too many of them leave feedback. So we've established that most people aren't going to leave feedback, okay? Now let's figure out the scenarios where that you can increase the chance of somebody leaving feedback. And the most noticeable way that I know to do this is to overstate your delivery time so that the buyer is shown a window of a week to 2 weeks, and then they get the item 2 days later. They're surprised. They were shown that it's going to arrive on the 12th, and they're expecting it to arrive on the 12th. They're excited about their order, and it shows up on the 8th. That will increase feedback. And you're going to notice that a lot of my positive feedback is about quick shipping. Look at that. Oh, so this is actually a positive feedback about quickly processing a return. So that's good. Look, fast shipping, fast shipping, fast shipping, fast shipping, fast shipping. A lot of it is about shipping. So that's one way that you can increase your feedback rate. And that, I think, is the most noticeable way. I don't really know of other ways to increase your positive feedback rate. I do know of one major way to decrease the amount of negative feedback that you get. And what this boils down to is your communication with the buyer. You need to communicate regularly. The thing is, okay, I often don't do this, and I've experimented a lot with what kind of messages it's okay to just ignore, because I'm trying to learn about this time spent mentality and only spend time on something when it is really worth my time, right? So what I've learned is that whenever you are canceling an order, it's very important how you go about handling that, because that's where most negative feedback comes from. There's going to be some negative feedback that the buyer is just pissed and something happened that was out of your control and they're just a dick, and no matter what you do, they're going to get you negative feedback, right? So that is unavoidable in a sense. There's always going to be some negative feedback, but what you can avoid is negative feedback due to item cancellations. And the way that you do this is by communicating with your buyer what you're doing. So it's okay to cancel the order as long as you communicate with the buyer, you tell them what's going on, and you message them. You don't have to give them a whole lot of information. Don't type out a whole bunch of paragraphs. Just have like a sentence or two where you take responsibility for the mistake and you tell them what's happening and tell them why you had to refund them, okay? That's really important that you communicate, because if you don't communicate, people who were gonna leave you a positive review will leave you a negative or a neutral review. So those are the two main points I have about feedback, is that the way to get more positive feedback is to overstate your shipping time and then actually ship sooner than that. That will increase the amount of positive feedback you get. And then the best way to reduce the amount of negative feedback you get is to make sure that you are communicating with buyers when you are canceling orders for whatever reason, because that's where most negative feedback comes from. And I can show you this by just looking at my negative feedback. I think, let's look at all of the negative feedback. So I've gotten 17 in the past year, right? Okay, so this one's kind of frustrating because this is basically positive. Okay, so this item broke during transit. So I might be able to get this removed. I'm not sure. After this section, I'll tell you guys about what scenarios you can get feedback removed and that kind of thing. So here you go. This is 2 negative reviews from me not sending the item and not communicating. Whereas this person probably would have just given me a neutral review or no review at all if I had just communicated with them quickly, right? So this person, that actually, I didn't purposefully send them the wrong item. Walmart just did. It worked out though, because I didn't have to refund him and I got to keep the proceeds from the sale. So that works out. This guy was just mean. I don't even remember what I did to him. This person opened a couple cases and I responded to them, but I guess they didn't see my messages. Not really sure. But my point is, look at this, okay? Out of stock, cancellations. Most of these bad feedbacks are about cancellations or not, items not getting received, right? So 2, 3, 4. Stay away, item drop ship from Walmart for half the price. Oh man, so silly. It's funny, right? See, canceled, refunded. Like I said, most bad feedback is from cancellations or out of stocks where you fail to communicate properly. So the next video that I'm going to do, I'm going to talk to you guys about out of stocks and everything that I know about how to handle them, the different ways to handle them, and all the different possible consequences, okay? But for now, I'm going to tell you more about feedback. Really quick, so you can get feedback removed, okay? So the thing about getting feedback removed is there's 2 different scenarios. Some scenarios, like this one, where it says, okay, stay away, item dropship from Walmart, half price. Scenarios like this, I can get this comment removed so it isn't shown to buyers, but the feedback it won't change my percentage. The feedback will still get counted against me. That's like when you can half get it removed, where you can get the feedback removed, but it still counts. Then in some scenarios, well, like for this one, possibly I might be able to just get this fully removed, and then also it will no longer affect me, okay? So there's 2 scenarios where you can get the feedback just removed, but it still affects you, and then in some scenarios you can get the feedback removed and take away its effects on you, right? So it's like it never happened in that, and that's the ideal scenario. As far as I know, I don't know too much, actually, Otherwise, I'd tell you about the scenarios where you can do one versus the other. I know for a fact that if they say anything about another website, like this one says the word Walmart, that means I can get the feedback removed, but it's still going to count, okay? So normally in a kind of more traditional eBay business, you're going to have situations where the buyer's doing research and they might go to your page, and then they click on your bad feedback number and look at this page to see, okay, if something does happen, what are the kind of bad things that happen, right? And so this would kind of dissuade them. The thing is, that is a form of research. Most of my buyers do not research, okay? And this is one of the reasons that I'm able to sell products more expensive than they are elsewhere on eBay and elsewhere on Walmart. Because think about it. In order for my buyer to get to this page, they need to have looked at the item, clicked on my account, and then clicked over here. At that point, they could have just searched and looked at another item on eBay. They could have just scrolled down the list a little bit further. You know, I really don't think that most of my buyers do research. And one of the reasons that I know this is because I have almost zero repeat customers, right? The only repeat customers that I have are international customers who regularly will purchase things for me because I'm able to get them to them cheaper or something, or because I'm the only one who sells them, right? So that's everything that I know about feedback. And again, my main takeaway for you guys is, one, to get more positive feedback, overstate your delivery time and then deliver sooner. And then two, to get less negative feedback, make sure that you communicate whenever you're dealing with out of stocks or cancellations. Don't lie to the buyer, but it's always better if you are canceling an order, always send them a message explaining why you are doing what you're doing, or just kind of being like, hey, I'm sorry about this. Take the blame, because if you can take the blame onto yourself, then a lot of people are more understanding. You're going to get more kind of positive experiences with them. Okay? All right. I hope that was helpful and answered some of you guys' questions about feedback. In the future, I'll learn more about the specific scenarios where you can get feedback removed, but at the moment, I don't really know enough to tell you guys about those, so I'm sorry about that. But someday. All right, bye-bye. See you in the next video.